Hello there, cheap things. So welcome to a new scary feature that we've got for you, which is basically me and him on film together. You've seen us doing the Bowie haunts, haven't they?
Yeah, of course you have. Yeah,
we've had Jason in there, and H hasn't done it yet, but he's an international man of mystery. I've never even met H. I think he might even be the same H who's on Line of Duty.
Very possibly, it's the same enigmatic character.
Well, I mean, so enigmatic, we've never seen him.
It's amazing. It's
never
a
even
mystery.
seen him.
It's a deep
And
mystery.
He works on Match of the Day as well,
Yeah,
he's obviously like the new James Bond. Anyway, so this is what the papers said, which is just Bob and I having a look through various old Bowie-related papers, and I'm really thrilled to say that's probably my proudest piece, actually. Melody Maker, the 12th of May 1973, Bowie Mad. Oh, I mean, a lot of you will have this, I presume,
great.
but it's got David Bowie on the cover with Angie in happier times, obviously, and it's an amazing place.
I mean, it's all over the front, isn't it? What a great cover! Exclusive interview, page 9.
That's a great
What's that
thing.
like?
Well, that's the kind of thing about it, really. There's a slight problem in as much as page 9.
Slight problem.
It's not there anymore.
It's missing.
It's missing.
Page 8 to page 13.
Yeah, you see, somebody's ripped it out. Now, this has got my sister's name written all over it, literally.
So what are you saying?
What am I seeing?
What are you saying?
I'm seeing, like, that I think either me or my sister ripped it out and stuck it in a scrapbook.
Wow, okay.
So
that's a shame.
We can only really guess as to what David Bowie was saying in this particular issue of the paper, but it's great though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's all right. You say that though, Mark, don't you? Luckily, I've got my pristine copy of exactly the same issue. Look, 12th of May, 1973. I mean...
Has he got the interview in it as well?
Has he got the interview? Great front page.
There is some sellotape on the front and there isn't on mine.
Well, you've got a bit of tat on this face. So let's go. So I've got page 8, just like you have. Oh, look. I've also got... page 9.
Changes, David Bowie. People never used to do that, did they?
No.
Changes. That's so original.
A Journey with Aladdin, and it goes over to the other page there. A great shot of Bowie on a train. All right, so
he's pretty wired, actually.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that because I think he is. He's having a lot of beer.
Right. Okay.
So it's an interview by Roy Hollingworth.
Right.
All right. Pictures by Barry Wenzel. So I've got it. You haven't, so it means we can still talk about it.
We can still talk about it. What we're going to do actually is also just have a quick run through the paper itself, just to give you an idea of what was going on in the world of music at that point in time. So there's a great interview here on page 3 with Brian Connolly of Sweet.
Yeah.
The Sweet, if you like, because it's right. Hellraiser, that was a new tune. And I'm going to read some of it out for you. Bobbing along the pavement outside Kensington Market came the blonde locks of Brian Connolly, lead singer with Sweet. Now, there was an apocryphal story about him being related to Taggart, wasn't there?
There was.
There's been a murder. Now, Tam Dean Byrne is a member of Cheap Things. He's going to have me for that bad Scottish accent. But we've done a bad Newcastle one.
Yeah.
I'm currently doing a bad Mancunian one.
Oh, well,
we can do no more. But it continues. Amongst the crowd, charging along the litter-strewn sidewalk, Connolly's albino features stood apart. He wasn't albino. His slender frame, dressed completely in red, made him the epitome of a little girl's idol. So slightly patronising.
Yeah, you could say that.
I mean, you know, they were a great band, The Sweet, weren't they?
Yeah, they were a great band. Great pop band, no doubt about it.
Great
Singles
pop
were
band.
amazing.
And it says here, we shook hands and he led me to his latest possession, a sparkling XJ6 Jaguar. So the money's rolling in for Sweet at this point in time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of conjecture, wasn't there, about Blockbuster and Gene Genie.
Well, yeah, I mean, Gene Genie came first, didn't it? And the riffs are, well, the opening riffs are more or less identical, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think you will find that there's about 500 blues songs that came before both.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the oldest riff in the band.
Of course it is.
It's almost right and Cellbot number 9, but you know, but it does continue. A lot of people have said the new single is just like Blockbuster. It's just not so. The only similarity is that it's the same guitarist, same voice, same dog barking, same people making the record. It's a Sweet sound, but another step closer to what we want to be. The Sweet are a team, not just the 4 of us. We just get the glamour. There's also Nicky Chin, Mike Chapman and Phil Wayman, amongst others, working to make us a success. Chin and Chapman have written all our singles. They don't just write the songs, they write with the Sweet in mind.
Well, there you go. I like the standout quote as well. That's interesting, isn't it? And quite informative. Obviously, the Sweet were kind of dissed by a lot of people for a while, weren't they? Including, it looks like, Richie Blackmore. because it's saying we've got where we are today purely on merit. I said 2 years ago that people like Blackmore wouldn't be able to put us down musically. So there's a bit of payback going on.
There is a bit of payback, and that was the thing, really, because, they ended up being a really, really great rock band. And, of course, Brian Connolly, he was an alcoholic, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think that's what got him in the end, tragically. And I never got to see him playing live. I don't even really remember them being in the frame, at that point. Maybe even I was snobby about them.
Yeah.
You did get very partisan about things, didn't
Certainly.
you? But one thing that he says there about the writing team of Chin and Chapman, I had somebody actually get in touch with the programme recently, talking about the great tune, Teenage Rampage.
Yeah, wonderful tune.
And it was a gig that this listener wanted to go to, but he was only 12 and his mum wouldn't let him. And so he told the story about how what had happened was the fact that there was two rival gangs in Glasgow and they were threatening each other, and they said, right, we're going to have it out. They didn't decide to do it on the hard shoulder of a motorway or in a field. They decided to do it at a sweet gig.
Wow, okay.
And so they were fighting, they were throwing stuff at the band were throwing stuff back, and then they ran off. And then they went away and told Chin and Chapman about the story, and they wrote Teenage Rampage.
I didn't know that story.
About that particular night.
That's amazing.
So they weren't the absolute puppets that people made them out to be, and I have to say that if you listen to Action, that tune, it might well be informed by Queen. It sounds very like Queen. Do you know that tune?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I think it's absolutely brilliant. But they were great. Never got to see them.
Okay, what else?
Other things going on. Stone the Crows bust up. Don't know if you know Stone the Crows, but of course it was Maggie Bell.
Yeah, that's right. Great singer.
Blues singer.
Yeah.
But this was a year after, talking about Scotland, it was a year after Les Harvey had died.
Alex's brother, of course.
Alex Harvey's brother, and he died. He was electrocuted on stage, wasn't he? And they tried to go on without him, and obviously couldn't do that, so a real shame. Some of the gigs of the week: Monty Python's Flying Circus at the Court Theatre in Liverpool.
Whoa.
You got Kevin Ayres at St George's Concert Hall in Liverpool. I've never heard of that place, have you?
St George's, well, I think that's a big hall opposite Lime Street Station.
Is it?
Yeah, the big old place, yeah.
Okay. And there's lots Focus are playing, there's various other bands, but here, Saturday, we'll get to this in a short while, David Bowie, Earl's Court, London.
Oh, wow. David
returns to Britain after his mammoth worldwide tour. Okay. We will get to that.
We will.
And we will get to something else in a moment about that as well. Interesting, this is a... can we get it on that camera? No, we can't. There you go, Geordie. So, you will know, many of you, but Geordie have got the singer, which is Brian Johnson of AC/DC.
Of course, yeah.
So, I think it was Bon Scott even said that he was a big fan of his. We're going to skip over the fact that page 8, 9 and 10...
They really have been torn, look at that. Properly torn. Not even cut out with scissors.
It's savage, isn't it? And what else is in here? This is interesting, The Raver, which is like a gossip column.
Yeah.
So... it's from America. Led Zeppelin are drawing phenomenal crowds on their current American tour. We have photographic evidence, unfortunately too blurred to print, of a mountain of people at Tampa Stadium, Florida, last Saturday, numbering no fewer than 56,800.
Okay.
It says at all gigs it's like an open-air festival, but only one group is drawing the mighty masses. Manager Peter Grant, legendary, says the Florida concert might well qualify as the biggest ever one-group show, as the Shea Stadium, where the Beatles played in their heyday, holds less than 50,000. So it was always touted as being the biggest open door gig.
Yeah,
of course, it got dwarfed by Nebworth by loads of different people, didn't it? Spooky Tooth advert there. You broke my heart, so I busted your jaw.
Yes.
Not particularly subtle, but of course at that point in time, Luther Grosvenor still in the band.
I don't think he was.
Oh, had he gone?
I think he'd gone back at that point. They'd been through so many different changes. I think he'd gone. And he was actually working with Steelers Wheel for a while.
Oh, he
was part of that live band for quite some time, and I think he was at a bit of a loose end when Ian Hunter phoned him.
Right.
So I think Spooky Tooth for him was in the past at that point.
Right, okay. So, because of course he went on not long after this, in May, it was the actual, the November that I saw Motley Hooper with him as a member of the band.
So this would be probably the Mike Harrison-led Spooky Tooth still, maybe with Gary Wright still in the line.
Right, okay. This is an interview here with Judge Dredd.
Right.
Now, for anybody who knows Judge Dredd, he was a bit of a wazzock, and he goes through it here, and he's very, very disparaging. What he does say, which is funny and stupid, he said, if you listen to everybody's going reggae, he says. If you don't know his oeuvre, it was filthy reggae.
Yeah.
White, filthy reggae. So there you go, make your own mind up. But he said, look at Led Zeppelin's new single, that's reggae. So he must be talking about Jamaica, is he?
Possibly.
I think.
Yeah.
But he says, you believe what I'm saying here, Moody Blues and Pink Floyd are all going to go Caribbean soon.
Which of course is what happened.
Oh,
yeah.
Inevitably. But then he goes on, judge's verdict. Donny is a right Charlie. Jimmy makes me puke. Boland's had his day. Now, this from a bloke who you could argue never really had his day at all. But he says here that he's 16 stone and a hard nut, and he's not going to argue with him.
Right.
This is interesting.
Look at that.
Yeah, you got Slade on tour with the sensational Alex Harvey band opening for them. But the interesting thing about this relating to Bowie is you will see there Earl's Court, okay? The 1st of July. Now, I remember Noddy Holder telling me about that particular gig. I think it probably went off okay. A lot better than the one that David Bowie's did, which we just mentioned a few weeks earlier. The bottom line is that Slade were that big, they were just so ginormous.
Yeah,
They were the biggest band in Britain by a country mile. And they booked Earl's Court. They were the very first rock band to book Earl's Court. And it was a real coup. 18,000 people, I think it might have been.
Yeah.
And so it was a real up, you know. You had Wembley Empire pool 10,000. That was as big as anybody got. And nobody really did football stadiums at that point in time. So that was a really great and brave move. Talking about Mick Jagger saying, don't show David Bowie your new shoes, because he'll go out and buy them. And talking about the Guy Pilar ripping off Guy Pilar for the Diamond Dogs cover when it was going to be It's Only Rock and Roll. That was the story, wasn't it? Bowie found out that Slade were booked into Earl's Court, and so he booked Earl's Court before them. He gazumped them.
He did, yeah.
Much to his own kind of pain.
He did shoot himself in the foot, didn't he?
Completely,
really?
because in that, you see, in this case, Slade would have been the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
And maybe Slade, like Bowie, wouldn't have got enough PA in, enough security, and as we know, the Bowie show at the Earl's Court was a complete debacle. Nobody could hear anything. Even Bowie's socks were sliding down, weren't they? I think, as I remember. And so that's just an interesting little snapshot. So Slade should have been there, and perhaps Slade should have had a nightmare, but I bet they learnt from Bowie's experience.
Oh, no doubt about it. Also, what a great double bill that is. I mean, that's the Alex Harvey band, just when they're really starting to take off. 'Cause I'm pretty sure they played Reading that year as well, didn't they? So suddenly they were finding an audience through supporting bands like Slade and also Mott the Hoople, Status Quo.
Well, they probably, learned an awful lot from Slade, because the sensational Alex Harvey band Stagecraft was just absolutely amazing. We've got an advert for Wizard there, so it is of that time. Anything else going on? This kind of is just, again, the new Jonathan Kelly album, Wait Till They Change the Backdrop, is available now on RCA Records, and he's touring with Riff Raff. Wasn't Billy Bragg in a band called Riff Raff?
Was he? Right, okay,
no.
But,
it's a full-page advert. They don't come cheap.
And it's RCA, so they've got a budget, haven't they? It's a big label, Bowie's label, of course. I don't know Jonathan Kelly at all.
It didn't work, did it? I don't know. There's not too much in it. There's a double page on Paul Simon, Polydor on the road, which is Focus. Who's Alcuin?
I don't know. Pink Fairies, though, on the road.
Pink Fairies, so great. And Roy Buchanan and Medicine Head.
Okay.
What else have we got in here? You've got loads of adverts for reel-to-reel machines, which they obviously thought was going to be the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I have got a few. I've got the Aladdin Sane, Ziggy and Hunky Dory reel-to-reels. So they were selling those for high-quality listening at home.
Okay.
Here's a poll.
Now, this is interesting. So, vote in the Melody Maker poll. So, and this has been filled in. I take it by your sister.
Well, it's got Tina Riley. Yeah,
Tina Riley. There you go. Okay. So, it asks you to vote for, male singer can only be one winner. Well, one nominee.
Yeah. So David Bowie.
Yeah.
Good on her. Brightest Hope Queen.
Yeah, she's got that right.
Female singer, she couldn't bring herself to even put anybody.
I mean, you could at least put Joni Mitchell down, couldn't you? If you couldn't think of anything else.
TV show Monty Python's Flying Circus. Band T-Rex. Best single Space Oddity, Bowie. Disc jockey Kenny Everett. Best album Aladdin Sane. Best live act Mark Bolan.
Okay, and then we get to international male singer Mark Bolan. Drums Woody Woodmansey.
Yeah, excellent.
Brightest Hope Focus. Well, that's a good call as well.
Yeah, it is actually. So, fair enough. So, yes, good stuff, and just rattling through now. I love all this because it's the Melody Maker postal bargain. So, in short, what you can do is buy all of your gear from there, right? Now, you've got the usual stuff, loom pants and all that kind of thing, But the thing is that they expect you to buy these having only seen a line drawing of them.
Well, that's the thing. There are no photos, are there?
There are no photos.
No, there aren't.
And this here, I will have to make an effort with this because there's a photograph of me on the Isle of Man in 1973 with that T-shirt on. Can we see it? Are you getting that?
Well, let's see. Just was it over a little bit more? Okay.
Have we got it, Bob?
Which one are we looking at exactly?
Oh,
there's a little Afghan
it's that
coat there.
one.
Oh, that one. Okay, so it's ring. Yeah, we're getting that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So there's a photograph of me.
You had that T-shirt, did you?
I had that. That was my very first David Bowie T-shirt. And so that is it really. There's just one little letter on the back that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
If I can find it. It's such a mess.
I have it here. Back page, isn't it? Okay.
DJ Blunder. This week's prize DJ Blunder award must go to Johnny Walker, who, after displaying considerable pluck in naming Walk on the Wild Side his record of the week, good man, had to go and blot his copybook by describing Lou Reed as a former member of American group Velvet Opera. That's pretty harsh, isn't it? He just got one word wrong and he's making Lou Reed his single of the week. And obviously it's got some pretty racy lyrics in there as well.
Of course.
So
it's bad. Well,
big up, enough respect, Johnny Walker.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I say. Who wrote that letter? Let's name and shame it. It might even be a cheap thing.
That was
R.B. Muirhead.
Yeah,
in Edinburgh.
Spring Gardens in Edinburgh. Okay. Let's get to the main event, shall we? So here's the front page. I'll just dazzle it again. All right. Bowie man. So it is all happening. May 73. He is a major star. At last, after so long knocking on the door, Bowie is massive. All right. So here we go. So David Bowie is set for a second appearance at London's Earl Court Arena. His first concert, which takes place this Saturday, sold out within 2 days. So we've discussed how that panned out or didn't. We sold 18,000 tickets in the shortest time physically possible, promoter Mel Bush told Melody Maker this week. Inquiries are still pouring in about the first show, so we've added an extra one at the end of the tour. Extra dates have also been added at several towns on the tour, making it the most exhausting tour ever. And it goes through the itinerary. I mean, it really is. I mean, it goes on, starts on May the 12th at Earl's Court, as we mentioned, goes right the way through until, the end of June. We know it went through to the beginning of July, don't we? Famously. At Hammersmith. All right, but he's playing like 2 shows a night, often. I noticed there he's playing Coventry New Theatre on the 3rd of June. I have a mate, hello Mike, who went to that one and actually more or less kind of touched his fingers when he was doing Rock and Roll Suicide at the end. So he did 2 shows there. So it really is, he's putting himself out there, and he was a workaholic, as we know.
Well, he was making money, wasn't he? And the interview is brilliant. I have read it, obviously. I just want to show that picture there. It's really dead sweet, isn't it? I mean, Bowie looks a little bit knackered, and Angie looks so young.
She does, doesn't she?
And she does feature in the interview as well, doesn't she? And quite right too. So let's get to it, Bob.
So here's an illustration of Bowie mania at this point in '73. So this is Roy Hollingworth, okay? Charing Cross Station, London, 9:10 p.m. And when he arrived, they screamed and they cried, and they rushed and gushed forth and beat their feverish feminine fists into the backs of the indeed brave coppers who shielded him, now him in capital letters, godlike, for he is indeed him. One girl, her face bloated and most ugly with tears and ruddy emotion, fell halfway twixt train and rail. A young copper dragged her to safety. 10 yards down the platform, he, again capital letters, was pretty close to injury too. Bowie, despite all the fierce bodyguarding, was being kissed and pinched and touched and ripped at, his hair now untidy, his eyes wild, his mouth open, a picture of terror, but his open mouth also bore the shadow of a crazed smile. They pushed him against the carriage door. It goes on to say, it took Spartan constabulary to lift this small, squirrel-haired figure to safety.
Never heard him call that before.
His face now very creased with every emotion a face could ever squeeze itself into, and they squeezed him into a car that was battered and clawed at, and that car squeezed its way to safety, and Mr. Bowie was back in England. It says on platform 1, in a dirty wet huddle lay 2 plumpish girls crying, holding each other, and just crying. So there's an illustration of the kind of effect that he would have. All right, so this is the end of his journey. So he's been away for 4.5 months. So he's been to Japan, he's travelled 7,000 miles, he wouldn't fly at this point, would he? This is the great thing. So he's travelled everywhere, either by car or bus or train. And so he's been on the Trans-Siberian Express.
It's great, Russia. It says in there he's been travelling soft. Now, travelling soft is first class.
Yeah.
Travelling hard, which he has done previously, they describe as hard. But the thing is, you mentioned it before, and it's littered throughout the interview, but he's always drinking, isn't he?
Yeah.
And bless him, you know. And again, you just think of this, those photographs I absolutely love because they did show.
There he is with his can.
Got it. It's a kind of skull.
Yeah.
And when we saw Bowie for the first time, and you know, at this point in time I would have been 12, then you think Bowie's, you know, otherworldly, probably doesn't need to eat or drink or anything, but there he's drinking cans of Skol, and not only drinking cans of Skol, he's necking them for England.
On the train.
He's like one of those people, you know, when you get to the airport at 9 o'clock in the morning and got 4 pints of Stella in front of him. That would have been David Bowie, so deal with that cheap thing.
Oh, there you go. So it's great. So this entire page, apart from that great setup, sort of deals with the fact that Roy Hollingworth and the photographer Barry are trying to find Bowie, trying to nail him down. So it starts at the George V Hotel in Paris. No sign of him there. He phones Lee Childers, who at that point was part of the main man entourage, wasn't he? He was a photographer.
He was,
Bowie,
yeah.
And Cherry Vanilla as well, who was no help whatsoever. So she was, officially Bowie's press aide at that point, all right. And then, so he's in a panic. So he's obviously got to get a story here for Melody Maker. He wakes up in the morning, he's staying over, still no word from Bowie at all, or even where he is. He knows he's scheduled to catch a train from Gare du Nord to Victoria in London that day. So he sets his alarm, runs to the station with Barry Wenzel, and each of them go through all 22 carriages of this train, and no sign of Bowie whatsoever. So it's real panic at this point.
Right.
You know, has he just slipped off in the night? You know, what we're going to do? What's my editor going to say? But then, so it's all a build-up. It's like an adventure story. It's like a bit of a boy's own job, this.
Well, I'll tell you what, leading up to all of that is really great, because you mentioned he'd been travelling for so long, but he'd been travelling on trains and all those different modes of transport. And it says in there, you know, like we've just mentioned, he's not going straight to the airport and flitting off, which is what all the pop stars would do. He was going by train or whatever, and it meant that for all of that time, Bowie was meeting the public.
Yeah.
So what you could do in 7 hours going to New York. It took him 2 weeks with Jeff McCormack. Okay, and I read what Jeff said about it being like they were on the QE2, and they realised the highlight of the day was high tea, because there's nothing to do. You can look out on the balcony, and on one occasion, apparently they serenaded the crew with Space Oddity.
Yeah.
But all that time is mingling with people. Whereas, you know, so you just get 7 hours over and done with. You don't really mix with people at an airport. You don't really mix with people apart from those that you sat next to on a plane. And he's meeting people, and he's just getting this obvious real thirst for information and finding out about people and seeing places, and I think all of that really informed Bowie as a character. I think, you know, if he had just got off and on planes, his wanderlust, his enthusiasm, his inquisitive nature probably wouldn't have been as anywhere near honed if he hadn't have done all that by the time that he got to America and then went off to live in Berlin.
Yeah. It's a good point, because it makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, later years when he did overcome his fear of flying, he was just kind of going from limousine to hotel to plane, all that stuff. Whether he kind of missed these days.
Yeah, I mean,
far kind of earthier, aren't they?
He had all that weird stuff, you know, where he's like being searched, you know, him and Iggy on different journeys, being searched on the trains and all this kind of stuff. And all of these mad adventures, which he quite simply wouldn't have got up to, and he just hopped on his own plane even at some point in time, in the way that Led Zeppelin were doing it, you know?
Okay. Again, you know, I think we did flash this before as well, but there's a great shot of Bowie, again, can in hand, his skull. Trusty can. So he's just drinking all the way from Paris.
I also love the fact that Roy is in there with Lee Childers, and Bowie's not turned up, and he says that they get us plenty of wine in, £7 a bottle, but we didn't drink it. And he said, so I slope off to my room, £30 for a single room, which obviously was a lot of money, but it just really it puts it in its time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So anyway, after this mad dash, who's trying to find Bowie, eventually turns up, and it's a dramatic entrance. Now you wonder how much of this is journalistic license, you know?
Right.
So he's saying, and then, so basically, bear in mind, so this is back to the station now in Paris, looking for Bowie frantically, and then as the sunlight split the smoke of several hundred smoking porters, there appeared in all innocence, and in neat suit of silver and purples, David Bowie.
Right.
Fresh from a limousine with that delightful wife of his, Angie, the most remarkable woman on earth, says David. She might well be. So we missed the bleeding train, said David, looking at platform 4, all empty and trainless. Never mind, dear, says Angie. There's another soon, and she wiggles her American bottom and vanishes to the inquiry desk. 7,000 miles, says David, smiling and very, very fresh. And we missed the bleeding train on the last leg.
I'll tell you what I love about this. I noticed this before. If you remember in Cracked Actor, He says, who put a bleeding wax museum in the middle of the desert? You'd think it'd melt. And bleeding is obviously his go-to word, isn't it?
When he's a bit hacked off with something, it's a bleeding.
But bleeding, and that is so British. And again, you won't imagine Bowie talking like that, or Ziggy, anyway.
Well, he does sound, we'll get to it in a second, but he does sound pretty homesick at times here.
Yeah.
You can imagine.
There's a great line, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes on to say we couldn't catch the next one because it involved a flight to Gatwick, and as Bowie says here, if it flies, it's death. That's his quote.
Well, it was his dad. He was a thing about he had a premonition, wasn't it, in his sleep that his dad came to in a dream and said, "Don't get on a plane, you will die," and that is responsible for everything that we've just talked about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there is a hovercraft. All right, so from Boulogne to Dover. For David, it only flies a few inches above sea level. Then, he says, for the first time in 2 years, I shall leave the land. Later, writes Roy, we board the train and he's talking away about music. In fact, just setting the world to rights, that's quite good. As you say, he's met all these people. He's got an impression of the world out there that he's probably been kind of guarded from for a while when he was really on the road. But now he thinks, I'm not even sure I want to be involved in this.
Has he got on the hovercraft yet?
Not yet, I'm going to get to that.
Oh, right, good.
Okay. So, this is flitting back and forth. So, Roy goes back now to the platform on Paris Nord. He says they're piping out the music to Last Tango in Paris, and we're walking along together and talking about Lou Reed. He's so damn fine, says Bowie, and they throw up all this mystery around him and all this bloody silliness. Can't they understand? He's just a New York cat, and this is just what he is. You know, it'd be so nice if people would be able to see that beneath it all, we're all very easy people, which is really telling, isn't it?
He nails Lou Reed, doesn't he?
Completely,
really?
You know. And so Roy says, yeah, they never believe it, David. They wouldn't want to, would they? And he says, maybe you're right, but we are easy people, and maybe in a lot of ways very simple. If only they could see, oh God, this intellectual confusion that surrounds us all. Why is going on? He said he carried his suitcase. I know I'm sick of being Gulliver. You know, after Japan, America, Moscow, Siberia, I just want to bloody well go home to Beckenham and watch the telly.
Yeah.
That's my favourite line in this. It's great.
Isn't it? But it also, and Roy does say in there, he says, we talk for ages and we don't talk about music.
No, that's the thing. That's 2 columns worth of just Bowie setting the world to
What does he
rights.
say? He said, we talk about the fate of the world. And then David, I don't know if we're going to this, but David comes out with some really kind of paranoid stuff. What does he say? He says, I have feelings that I know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, so he's travelled the world and he is absolutely convinced. He said that I can't, if I was to put all of this information that I've gathered from travelling the world in an album, it would have to be my last album.
Well, that's the thing. He says, I've never been so damn scared in my life.
So he's completely paranoid. What you've also got to really think about is the fact that this is just 2 months before the last ever show.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's stuff unfolding here which really does put a question mark. You know my theory. I've mentioned it on Cheap Thing before. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But this holds it up, actually.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely. It really does.
Yeah, he does come across as quite paranoid a bit. Goes on to talk about... They get to Boulogne eventually. Bowie's a little bit kind of tense, as you'd imagine, on his hovercraft, but they get there, they get to Dover, and then they board another train, a really slow one, okay, back home. All right, and then they start to talk about music and his work ethic and what he's been up to, and what it didn't really go into detail about what his plans are. Probably doesn't quite know, but he certainly wants to keep on working.
Hang on, has he been on the hovercraft yet?
Yeah, I've done that.
Right, okay, so, yeah, and you mentioned it fleetingly, but the crazy thing is that he is terrified about getting on a hovercraft.
Yeah.
And it's 3 inches off the ground, and that is what terrifies him. Like, Angie's saying it'll be all right. She's having to reassure him.
She's saying they don't hurt, David.
Yeah, they don't hurt. And, and he describes it looking like a sperm whale with an engine on it.
Yeah.
And I would love to have gone on that hovercraft. It would have been an amazing experience, but... Such as his terror, it can spend weeks and weeks on boats and ships and stuff with, 2 miles worth of water underneath you and not be bothered. But to be that high off the ground on a hovercraft fills him with terror.
Absolutely, complete dread.
God, that was really ingrained in him, wasn't it?
So he survives the hovercraft journey. They get to Dover. He gets on the slow train, has a cup of tea, a British rail sausage roll, gets a hold of the Evening Standard. And he's in his element. He's back home, all right, and he's happy. He's saying, I've got to work harder this year than I've ever worked in my life. He said, this is what he was talking about on the way on the journey on the hovercraft. He says, we're going to do a 79-date tour of America this year in about as many days. I might die, but I have to do it. He says, I mean, you know, the Spiders have only played about 50 dates together. About time we started working, I feel. I mean, this is quite, bearing in mind the Spiders were gone within a couple of months.
But that's what I'm talking about. So even at this point in time, this is my theory, bear with me, but was always that he found out that Tony DeFries had shafted him pretty much in this contract, and the more they toured, David Bowie was more in debt. So at some point, David Bowie had agreed to do a massive American tour.
Yeah.
The Spiders, as we know, spoke to Woody about it. Everybody thought, right, we've got the rest of the year mapped out, and then who knows what. And somebody's booked this tour. Bowie's talking about doing it on the 12th of May.
Yeah, sure.
But it is only 2 months later that all of a sudden he pulls the rug. And I am absolutely convinced, and I did mention it to Di Davis, and the interview is on Cheap Things from a few months ago now. But I said to Di Davis, could it be the case that Davey just realised the more every gig he did, the further in debt he got, because he was paying everything out of it. So Tony DeFries took 50%, David got 50%, David had to pay for the Spiders and everything out of that 50%.
Yeah.
And so I just got it just came to me, and I've spoken to a few people about it, and nobody had ever really thought of it. But it just struck me that David Bowie probably just sat down one day and thought, God, if I go to America and we do 50 dates or whatever, I'll probably be another £1 million in debt. I'm not doing it. And I think he just turned on a sixpence. So some point between the 12th of May and the 3rd of July in 1973, David Bowie just thought, right, I can't do this. And that is, to David's defence, it looks really bad, doesn't it? The way he treated the Spiders and everything.
Yeah.
But you'd have to say it was a sound financial decision that made sense to stop Ziggy and the Spiders at that point in time, because he just couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah.
But everybody looks at it and goes, God, the band didn't even know. Bowie might have even just made his mind up a day before, a week before,
possibly,
and just thought, right, I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to bin this tour and think about the next stage. The next stage being a money spinner, which was Pin-Ups, which took no time to write because he didn't write the tunes.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really interesting that he, at that point in time, is still considering doing the tour that was shortly thereafter.
Yeah,
aborted.
definitely. And so much kind of clearer in hindsight, of course, like everything else is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so at this point, so he's right in the middle of it all here. There was a point as well, and he kind of alludes to it here. There was an interview that he'd done with Melody Maker with Michael Watts, and Michael Watts is the guy who broke the bisexual story, wasn't it, a year earlier, 72. And he's talking. He must have been talking about, I don't want to perform anymore. I don't want to be a stage performer, a pop star. I'd rather just be behind the scenes and write for people. And he said it was with another interview with Michael Watts from Melody Maker that convinced him that the stage was his natural habitat. He belonged there.
Yeah, but at the same time, he said that Ziggy, the character, is the Dr. Frankenstein creation.
Yeah.
But he does again, just adding fuel to the fire. He does say, so that Ziggy is going to go, but he will be still David Bowie and the Spiders from Mars. Not Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, crucially, David Bowie and the Spiders from Mars, which means that he had every intention. And you can imagine that it would have been Woody. Obviously, Woody was really upset, and Bowie didn't turn up or Mick to Woody's wedding to June.
That's right, yeah.
So he was really hacked off, and obviously they ended up falling out, and he didn't play on Pin-Ups. But Ainsley Dunbar did it. You would imagine that it would have been the Spiders doing Pin-Ups, and then maybe even the Spiders doing Diamond Dogs, which is imaginable.
Yeah,
obviously,
absolutely.
the Spiders doing Young Americans isn't imaginable, but so it.
Yeah, no,
it just all blew up, didn't it?
It follows the logic. I mean, he's talking about. I mean, you kind of mentioned it there, the whole Dr. Frankenstein analogy and everything. But he's talking here about how he got going for a long time. As we know, Bowie was desperate to be a star, wasn't he? He tried so many different angles and personas and avenues, and it never worked until, as I say, he'd been at it for a good kind of 10 years before he became famous. All right, but he's talking here about, obviously he has a time to reflect on how it all happened. And he said that whole hype thing at the start was a monster to endure. It hurt me quite a lot. I had to go through a lot of crap. It meant I never thought Ziggy would become the most talked about man in the world. I never thought it would become that unreal. I don't want to be studied as a boy next door type character. Neither do Weird. I want to maintain a balance between the two of them, between both. The characters I've written about have indeed been the roles I have wished to portray. Ziggy, what that dear creature, I loved him. I feel somewhat like a Dr. Frankenstein, although Ziggy follows David Bowie very closely. They are indeed two different people. What have I created? Ziggy hit the nail on the head. He just came at the rightest ripest time.
The key word in there is loved.
Yeah, that's it.
So he's still working the tour, and he's still doing Ziggy, and he's still contemplating doing 50 dates in America. But he'd fallen out of love with Ziggy at this point in time, and you know, kind of fallen out with the band, because as we know, at this point in time, he was travelling separate from them.
Well, he'd been consumed by Ziggy as the persona, hadn't he? According
and
to
Skull Lager.
Yeah, obviously.
By the look of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing that the more he's drinking here, the more he's sort of talking as well. You know,
he looks like he's on one there.
Yeah,
he looks like he's had a few, and he's like, I bet he must have been great for Roy Hollingsworth. He's like,
great.
Gimme, you know.
Yeah, keep going. So this is great. Also, this is really interesting because he talks about his devotion to Angie at this point, which is really, really nice to. He says here, what keeps me together, what shoulders these escapades of mine is this dear wife that I have, this dear woman Angie, who knows David Bowie better than I do. Wherever we travelled, each station, each town, there were a few spare minutes when he didn't hug, kiss and point at his lady and say loudly, she's the greatest. That's Roy writing, of course. Bowie says, Angie says he gets very ill after a few beers. I mean, Roy, look at his face now. He's Genie, he's a little villain, but he's lovely, said Angie, looking after us all. One remarkable woman, to be sure, writes Roy. I love that little bit.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, the whole role Angie played in Bowie's rise has sometimes been sort of underplayed.
Yeah, completely.
We're keen not to do that. So again, talks about Ziggy and becoming Ziggy on stage, and talk about becoming him off stage as well.
Yeah.
He says, I really was though on stage. That was my ego. All right. And Roy says, well, what's your ego now? He says, strong and getting fiercer. Well, I don't think it's Ziggy anymore. It's a more mature David Bowie. And he says, you mean mature as being calmer? He says, yes, more aware, more in control of myself. I think that's good. That will keep me alive. You see, I have no idea what I look like on stage. I've never seen a film. I just don't know what I look like when I become that thing. I must see a film of myself. It's essential.
That is incredible. And of course, what comes again 2 months later, the film.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
So he did get to see
opportunities.
it eventually.
And then goes on to talk about, well, he says, Roy says, I can't wait to see what, Bowie, I'm sorry, says, I can't wait to see what we actually are. I know that visually the band is going to be reducing. I mean, everyone's wearing makeup, ain't they? We're going to reduce on that level. It'll still be David Bowie and the Spiders, though, as you just mentioned. And then talking about his audience and the fact that it's so important to keep the youthful audience. You know, he talks the little Noddy Holders and the little Iggy Pops. Right. It's really nice. So he's got plans. It's like he knows what he wants to do, but he can't. Maybe the paranoia is really starting to creep in here.
Yeah,
as kind of
seems that way. Yeah, the paranoia really does
2 or
seem
3
to creep in.
occasions.
I mean,
but a great piece. And you see at the bottom there's a little sort of little train of photographs taken by Barry Wenzel during the day, and there's Roy Hollingworth at the end there in a little white hat. So what a great thing to just spend that time with Bowie at that point in time, 1973, when everybody wants a piece of him.
And everything is just about to blow up in everybody's face, isn't it? There's also, just before we go, funny enough, there's the A to Z of David Bowie in there.
Oh yeah, let's have a look at that, shall we? Okay, here it is. Well, some of these are a little bit tenuous, so...
We like to think, we're just slightly worried that on our A to Z of David Bowie podcast we missed something really crucial, and that's why we're just a bit kind of nervous about looking at this.
Should we take a look at these, shall we? Well,
A is for Lad Insane, his new LP, and the Arts Lab he used to run for 2 years in Kent. Phew. A is for Angela. Well, we did Angela later on, didn't we, as a star maker and all that. But yeah, so we covered that.
All right.
Androgynous beauty.
That's right. B is for Brixton. We covered that as well, didn't we? Where he was born. Bromley, where he grew up, and Beckenham, where he moved. And B is for Buzz, the band he led at the Marquee. We covered all of those, didn't we?
C is for Carnaby Street, where David once designed shirts and suits for John Stevens. We covered that because he used to go up and down Carnaby Street with Mark Bolan, nicking clothes out of Skip.
in the cheap bins, yeah. D is for Decca, David's first label, which reissued his first album as The World of David Bowie, including one of his favourite songs, The London Boys, originally the B-side of the first D-Ram single.
To be fair to them, obviously we had the whole of David Bowie's career to go at, and they didn't. So at this point they've got E is for X-Mod. Well, he's covered him being a mod, but E for X-Mod. I can't even remember what we did for E. What would we have done?
We had loads.
We did, I'm sure.
We did.
Maybe we'll come back. Eno.
Of course, we didn't. Well, he did know Eno at this point.
He knew him, but he did not played a crucial part, had he? Okay.
All right, F for Frampton. David went to school with Peter Frampton in Bromley. We covered him, and one of his first rock tours in 1969 was with Humble Pie as a guest artist.
We also did Owen Frampton.
We did,
his
yeah.
dad. So
Bowie's
nailed
teacher,
it.
yeah.
G is for gay, glamour, and glitter, which David reinvented and set the trend for the 70s. of
Yeah.
course.
H is for Hunky Dory, of course, the breakthrough album that gave us a new superstar. Also humour, which David doesn't lack.
Well, absolutely. I is for Iggy Pop, naturally.
J is for Jones, when he was David Jones on Lower Third.
Yeah, okay. K is for Kudos.
Now this is a little bit shaky.
Yeah, that
He
escaped
could have had
him
the
for so
Conrads.
long.
He could have had the Conrads.
Yeah, that missed a trick there.
Yeah. Now, also, L is for Lamas, all right, who David wanted to help in Tibet when he almost became a monk. None of that is true.
Ooh, and I mean, obviously, Lodger hadn't been done at that point in
No,
time,
no.
and various other low and whatever.
Yeah.
M is for marriage. For Jerry Mulligan, who's saxophoning, he liked, bit tenuous. He did get a mention in the podcast though. Cherry Manila.
Cherry Manila.
So you change the initials of people just to be able to get them into your A to Z.
That's
Cheeky.
very poor. Okay, N is for no one. Oh, I'm sorry, Noon.
Yep.
He wrote "Oh You Pretty Things" for Peter the Herman.
Yeah. O is for oddity, space oddity. Well, again, we did that every now and then. Though. We were a bit playful with it, weren't we? So we'll let them off with
It's
that.
fluid, isn't it? P is for Pitt, of course. Ken Pitt, his first manager, later superseded by Tony DeFries. Also for planes on which David won't travel.
Covered all that. Q is for quality. Oh. I mean, we covered Queen, didn't we?
And Quatermass and the Pit.
All that. Queen bitch, it says here, so fair enough.
R, of course, Ronson. Mick Ronson is excellent lead guitarist and foil on stage, and also for Lou Reed.
S is for the Spiders from Mars. Well, we did them all individually, didn't we? But we did Station to Station and all that kind of stuff. T
is for Tom, the Major, who called up ground control, and the 3 Tons in Beckenham for the Arts Lab.
Yeah, we did that. V is for the Underground. Oh, sorry, U. I don't think alphabet, did I? U is for the Underground of the Velvet variety.
Right, okay. V is for Visconti, Tony as producer, and Virgin Soldiers, he had a walk-on part.
Yeah, W is for Wakeman, which we covered, obviously. Woody Woodmansey, which Woody got his own episode. Of course he did.
Of course he did, yeah. X is for Sex, which has its role to play. I mean,
we went down the X-rated route, didn't we?
We did,
a lot of his movies now.
Could have had Clockwork Orange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Y is for You. He Loves You Till Tuesday.
That is all wrong. He'll Love You Till Tuesday, his first album.
Rubbish.
Released in 1968. Z, of course, it's for Ziggy Stardust. And Zoe, his son, H2.
I think we came out of that all right then, didn't we?
I think we did well there.
Okay, so that was it. The very first What the Papers Say. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll do another one if you like it. If you don't, we'll do another one. Bye.
Bye now.